Hi, welcome to the Tournament Center. I'm Rashad Miller. This is Zach Hill, and we have a draft for you to watch. This is day 2 at Pro Tour Journey into Knicks, and we have the pleasure of watching Josh Utter-Leyton, who's sitting at 8-0, draft full Theros block. So I guess we could get the screen going. There we go. This is what a pack of
Magic the Gathering cards.
Magic the Gathering cards, so you know we're not playing any other game. So let's go ahead and start the video so we can get this going. Now, if you watched Patrick Chapin, he is sitting to Josh Utter-Leyton's right. So we are going to see packs from that pack, those packs as well. So now, right now, we got a Harness by Force pulled to the front alongside some other cards. Looks like that's the only one he's really considering.
Yeah, Luke Ricotta, okay. The 2/3 Enchantment Fall for 3 O-card Dryads, reasonable card. But right now, I think Harness by Force can really swing a game by itself. Once you get to 6 mana, pretty difficult to beat. And it looks like what Josh is looking at right now.
It looks like he's also piling up the cards to see what's going to come back. You see a Disciple of Deceit up front, but too early to commit to 2 colors?
Yeah, I think Nightmarish End, also a relatively reasonable pick. It's a removal spell, but I just don't think it's quite at the level of Harness by Force. And that looks like what he's taking. Now, an interesting thing about this draft, I think he's being fed by Patrick Chapin.
Exactly.
Who we've already seen drafting today. So thinking about that dynamic might inform this draft a little bit.
Ooh, there's a Sigil Starfish. I've heard so many stories about that guy getting picked before. Quality rares. Alongside an Aerial Formation, we have a Font of Fertility and a Rouse. So what do we think we're going here?
I think you have to go with Sigiled Starfish here. I mean, this is one of the premier commons in the format, ensures that all of your draws work out very well, and as an 0/3 blocker, it can block a lot of the aggressive creatures in the format. So I think the Starfish is a pretty clear pick here. Worth noting, even though it has 0 power, it doesn't have Defender. So if you pick up an Ordeal, Starfish can start turning sideways to attack and not just to scry.
Does it really ever do that?
I've done it before. I did it last night. So maybe that's just bias speaking.
All right, so here's our 3rd pack. Looks like we have another Sigil Starfish.
Yeah, we see Starfish, Blade Tusk Boar. He's got Pensive Minotaur at the front, but Minotaur not a card you really want to be looking at this early. I think once you have 1 Starfish, the 2nd Starfish is a pretty clear pick. There aren't really too many of these that you can have, because once you have 1 out, if you really just don't want another, you can just scry it away.
Now, is there something to say about Blade Tusk Boar? Is it better than it's ever been in a set?
Blade Tusk Boar is really, really powerful. I think it's one of Red's best commons. I just think Starfish comes out early, it smooths your draws. You've got the Threaten already, so I mean, I think you're slightly in red, but I just think you want to pick up Starfishes right now and take those as signals.
Starfish definitely was the pick, and here we go. We see a Golden Hind pulled to the front, and you have a little tidbit about the Channel Fireball drafting strategy, don't you?
Well, I know one of the things they're wanting to do is stay open, and I know many of them believe green is the best color, and specifically Golden Hind is the best common. We see Cloak Siren here, really good in blue, also pinned to the earth. Goes well with those Starfish, but Golden Hind, a lot of them believe is the best common, and green-blue they believe is the best color combination. So I think the Hind makes sense there.
Yep, Golden Hind is the pick, so let's see what our next pack is going to hold for us. And while we're waiting for that, it looks like we're red, blue, green.
Yeah, I mean, right now, I don't think you can really say that you're declared in any major color combination. I mean, you've just got 1 green card, 1 red card. Boar, pretty strong signal here. Rise of Eagles, I think, quite good in green-blue because you can accelerate into it. But I believe that Boar, just by a small amount, is the pick here.
Yep, Boar is the pick. We also saw a Combat Trick in Nature's Panoply that was also in that pack. It looks like he was considering it a little bit, but went with the Boar.
Right, I mean, Panoply really good with heroic creatures, not a bad rate at just 1 mana for a counter, but Boar, like we said, really quality card.
All right, now we have an O-card Dryads, which is a great card if you want to take advantage of the Constellation mechanic. Font of Vigor looks like it's coming to the front too. It's getting shuffled back.
Yeah, I think O-card Dryads, if the 2/1 that produces mana is green's best common, this card is probably green's 2nd best common. So we see 2 blue cards, 2 green cards, and 2 red cards. But leaving himself open, but focusing on taking powerful cards rather than committing too early for a strategy.
Now, speaking of powerful cards, Starfall, that seems to be a pretty good removal spell coming out of Journey into Nyx.
Starfall, a reasonably good rate on this, a reasonably good 5 mana, 3 damage at instant speed. Instant speed really important with all the removal. On the other hand, it's a lot of mana for just a few damage. I see the pick there. I also think Thassa's Devourer is a reasonable card, but removal's removal.
Right, I think I've gotten used to spending a lot of mana for my removal. I've been beaten into 5 being a bargain.
Well, if we see one Starfall, here's another Starfall. There's no reason not to take it later if you're willing to take it earlier. Armory of Iroas, not too bad. That you can start to accumulate some really big creatures. Worst fears are probably not casting. I think Starfall is a pretty clear pick right here.
Yep, second Starfall goes into pile 4, Josh Utter-Leyton. And now we're starting to get into the scraps of the pack. You would think. We got a couple of fonts here, so the blue font and Font of Ire, Font of Fortunes, and that Disciple looks like it came back.
Really, Font of Fortunes and Disciple, probably the 2 best cards in the pack by a lot. Strong signal that blue is open, but not really a way that Josh can capitalize on blue-black.
Yeah, it looks like Josh stuck to his guns with that Ire, and now we see a God Hunter Octopus. Desecration Plague, yeah, these are we're just cleaning up the pack here.
I mean, Desecration Plague is a enchantment removal spell, which sometimes you need. It can blow up a land, which if you're accelerating out with Goldenhind can sometimes be relevant, but you've got to be pretty happy about this late Panoply here.
Yeah, the Panoply comes back for Josh Utter-Leyton, so looks like he's got a good green pool going for him and some blue with the Starfish, and here's a Strength in the Fallen. Now, I always see this as a signal. My deck's open.
I was going to say, yeah, you're drafting Dredge, I guess. No, I mean, Strength of the Fallen, a reasonably good Magic card. Can make some creatures big, good in Enchantment Fall. I haven't really been able to make it work out in Limited, but it looks like Rashad, you've been able to try that out.
Well, you keep trying it every time. One of them's got to work. And Josh picked up a Cruel Feeding over a Dictative Commentra. Oh, okay. I don't know. I think I would have given my binder a little love there. So what are we looking at here? It looks like the Sigil Starfish they're not going to have a home in this deck so far.
Definitely, I mean, he's focused in on red-green. That said, Starfish still some of the most powerful cards in the pack. I think he's going to still look to blue as a signal that's relatively open if it comes in the second pack, but he's definitely got to be thinking of himself as base red-green at this point. The other card that I saw in the pack later, Lightning Diadem, not a super high pick, but when you can ramp into it and make both the boost and the damage matter, I think it's at its best in red-green. That said, he ended up not picking it up. It's not a particularly exciting card to begin with, but just some other things that were going around the table that Josh could have noticed.
Right, and Josh only really has one card to ramp at the moment, which is the Goldenhind, but there's a lot of opportunities coming up in these 2 packs. So now, we have Born of the Gods, and there is a Brimmass, which is not in any of these 3 colors, but is this just too powerful? Do you consider taking this? Is this part of the staying open plan?
I mean, I think Brimmass is just a card you can't ignore, especially in your second best picks. Reckless Reveler, maybe theoretically Deepwater Hypnotist, something like Scouring Sands. I mean, Josh could take Reveler here, you might play it. But, I mean, Brimmass, the power disparity is just so high. Yeah, and actually I think you've got to go for it.
Yeah, looking at the rest of the pack, there was nothing in there for anyone. So taking a Brimmass, even if he doesn't play it, maybe it's just a defensive pick.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to table the 2-mana 2/1 with not a particularly relevant ability. I mean, I just don't think that staying on color there is worth much at all. I very much agree with the Brimmass pick.
Yeah, that was a pretty weird pack. Right
was
there.
A weird pack. Now, this pack a lot better. I mean, Swordwise Centaur, Fall of the Hammer, probably arguably the best green common, definitely the best red common. This is more like what Josh wants to see in this pack.
Yeah, there are a couple of blue cards in there. There's a Flitterstep Eidolon that looks like Josh is not considering, so it's either red or green. What do you think the pick's going to be? Fall of the Hammer is really solid.
Yeah, I think Fall of the Hammer is just enough better that it's worth taking. Swordwise Centaur, you're not quite sure what your base color is going to be just yet either, so I think Fall is the pretty clear pick.
Yeah, there's a lot of green mana symbols in that Swordwise Centaur.
Yeah.
Fall of the Hammer was the pick. All right, so it looks like Josh is solidifying himself in red and green. And there we see an Archetype of Aggression. We have a Faded Conflagration. Now, is that How red do you need to be in order to start playing this triple red casting cost card?
You know, I find myself playing Faded Conflagration most in red-blue, where you can just have a lot of spells and play it later, or in red-green, where between your mana-fixing cards like Nylea's Presence, you can actually fudge the red mana symbols just a little bit. But that said, I like the Tromper here. I don't mind the archetype. Again, I'm trying to stay away from double colors right now, so I think I would have gone with the Tromper. But the pick of archetype makes sense. It's the 3-mana 3/2, the trample most relevant in red-green of any archetype because of the big green creatures.
So do you think that it was a curve consideration or so mostly the trample consideration part?
I think it's a lot of both. I mean, but taking that card right now opens you to awkwardness like this where you see Swordwise Centaur and having GG and RR spells early in the game just makes it difficult to cast your spells on time.
Yeah, there isn't a lot else in there for green. There was a snake of the Golden Grove.
Snake of the Golden Grove?
Yeah, but that's probably not as good as a Swordwise Centaur.
Snake of the Golden Gloves, the baseball playing snake, or boxing snake, or whatever. Amateur.
All right, so we have a Pillar of War, we have Retraction Healers. Looks like blue's wide open, but no consideration in going into blue. We have Searing Blood and Fairy's Band Trapper brought to the front.
I love Searing Blood here. The card is just so powerful that I think you have to take it. Again, I am just not excited about the mana base of this deck. Searing Blood, red, red, archetype, red, red, Swordwise Centaur, green, green, but Searing Blood, just such a powerful card. I think you have to take it. Fairy's Band Trapper, the other option.
Now, was it too late to switch back into blue? You have a couple of Sigil Starfish, and there's a Retraction Healer. There was a Retraction Healer in that pack.
I think that's a good point, Rashad. I think you look at it, but I do think by this point in the pack, you're committed enough that it's hard to renege, but I agree with you. I think you're absolutely right that blue is wide open.
All right, so sticking with guns, we have a Rise to the Challenge brought to the front. There isn't a lot else going on. There's a Forsaken Drifters, and, you know, Impetuous Sky Guard.
Yeah, not really exciting. And Rise to the Challenge, actually a pretty good combat trick. There's a lot you can do with it. He might pick up some heroic
Whoa. There's a Chromaticor hiding back there.
Oh, man. Well, we know what we're taking. We know we've got this.
Can we do it? No. I think we're going to go the unexciting pick of this Farragas Giant.
Yeah, I think Farragas Giant, probably the best card in the pack. I don't hate Setessan Starbreaker here because he doesn't really have any enchantment removal right now. So I don't mind that. I mean, both the cards kind of mediocre, but Farragas Giant, at least you can accelerate into it. So it makes sense as a pick.
All right, so we have another Farragas Giant, and we also have a Springleaf Drum. Not the best ramp spell, but it's also color fixing. Is that a consideration?
I think it is. I mean, you know, I think the drum is best in like black or blue-black, where you've got a lot of inspired triggers.
Right.
Josh hasn't really seen a lot of that so far, and he's got other acceleration. I think it's something to look at, but I mean, once you're taking one Farragas Giant, you can take another one.
All right, so here's another chance to get us a Setessan Starbreaker, but there's also a Gorgon's Head pulled to the front. The Fire's Radiance, not really a card. Archetype of Endurance probably, but it looks like it's a Gorgon's Head. Tell me about that card.
Yeah, I mean, it can make your Goldenhind and things like that better later on. You've got a lot of random 2/1s in red that it can do. Oh, a late Fairy's Band Tromper right here.
That's a pretty good table. That's the one that he took, I think, a Searing Blood over?
Yeah, I think there are 2 Fairy's Band Tromper picks.
Oh no, the archetype. He took the archetype from that Fairy's Tromper.
So I mean, yeah, good read by Josh being able to table that card.
All right, so now we have some very powerful blue cards still in the pack. And it looks like there's a Marsh Titan Hate Draft there.
Yeah.
Why is that over the Kraken Straits?
I think he knows he's passing to Patrick Chapin. I think he can probably have a reasonably good read that Pat's base black. He's seen almost no good black this draft. So I think Marsh Titan, yeah, just specifically hating the player that you know you're playing against.
Exactly.
Which is Patrick.
Right, both of these players are 8-0, so they will be paired up against each other in the first round of this draft. And they're sitting next to each other, so they're gonna have a pretty good idea of what each other are playing. So we get a good look at the review period, and we are solid in red-green.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, the Starfish, I was saying, okay, you can remain open, that's good, that's nice, but I mean, he's solidly committed to red-green here. I think the thing he's going to want is just some mana fixing. Nylea's Presence, even Traveler's Amulet, just some way to get this mana base to work. I mean, it's not awful, it's not particularly bad.
It's just not very smooth.
Just not very smooth, exactly. He also needs a few more early drops right now. You have Goldenhind, you have one Setessan Oathsworn that you may or may not be able, or whatever the three sword-wise centaur.
Right.
That you may or may not be able to cast on time. I think what he needs to do is solidify his curve, pick up maybe one more removal spell.
A Voyager Satyr will go great in this deck.
A Voyager Satyr is exactly what he needs. Yes, Rashad.
Now, not, foretelling that he's going to open a Voyager Satyr, but if he does.
You're just spoiling it for us, Rashad.
Oh, well, you know what? This pack's
this guy.
I cheated a little. I did some note taking for the first 2 packs, but this one's all new to both of us. I have no idea what's in this pack, and there is a Sedge Scorpion, one of the premier commons for green, and there's a Perforos' Emissary brought to the front. Also a Griptide, and it looks like he has a Bronze Sable up there.
Yeah, I mean, I think Bronze Sable largely for curve purposes is why you're looking at it. Perforos' Emissary, I think probably the strongest card in this pack. That said, I like the Scorpion a lot here. It provides him some early defense. It can deal with a bigger creature. I don't know how much he needs late game. That said, Perforos' Emissary, just by far the strongest card on raw power right here.
Yeah.
Definitely makes sense as the first pick.
I think all of the bestow cards, especially in the first set Theros, are all very powerful. Doesn't matter which one it is, as long as you get card advantage out of putting it on a creature, bestowing it, and then you get the benefit both when it dies and before it dies.
Right.
All right, so now we're looking at a Death Bellator, a Portent Betrayal. We have a Kraken Train. Not a lot going on for Josh here.
Yeah, this is really not very exciting. I mean, none of those cards particularly good, even if you could cast them. Death Bellator is a 2-drop, but you don't have any black mana at all. That really opens yourself up to being blown out, I think. I actually don't dislike Unknown Shores here. We've seen a lot of double-colored mana cost, and you don't really care if you cast Searing Blaze on turn 4 for 3 mana. Still really good. I might pick that up, but it looks like he goes with the Minotaur just for mana curve.
Yeah, 2-3 for 2. It's still solid. You don't have any black mana to regenerate it, but being able to attack for 2 on turn 3, it's pretty solid. It's going to be able to trade up. Well, not trade up, but it's not going to trade down. And there is a solid green card, Nemesis Immortals, probably one of the best uncommons for green in Born of God.
Yeah, Nemesis Immortals definitely is just you getting paid off right here. That is the best green uncommon, one of the best uncommons in the set. I think it's extremely, extremely powerful. You are very excited to see it third and really rewarding Josh for the green commitment here.
And speaking of great green uncommons, there's also a Ordeal hiding back there. That's a consideration there, but it looks like he goes with the Nemesis Immortals.
I like Ordeal of Nylea a lot. I'd like it a lot more if you add that Scorpion and if you add more early drops. Now, it's good on Death Bellarators, making sure that you don't have to run it into a bigger creature. So I like the Ordeal pick, but I think Nemesis Immortals is just such a strong card.
All right, a couple of good red cards here. We have Coordinated Assault and Dragon Mantle. They're stronger in the heroic style decks, but still good combat trick, the Coordinated Assault.
I think so. I think Coordinated Assault is a much better card. With 0 heroic, I think you might actually want to go with Dragon Mantle here. You could use the cantrip. It's good on Death Bellarators, but Coordinated Assault, I guess, just such a stronger card that's what Josh decides.
Yeah, it also works with the Death Bellarators. Being able to bring your Centaur up to a 4-2 in combat, that's going to be able to go to trade up in value a lot in combat. So now we have an Arena Athlete and a Nylelia's Disciple. And also a Portent Betrayal. I really like Portent Betrayal. It can steal games.
I absolutely love Portent Betrayal. I think Threaten style effects, the effects that you steal your opponent's creature for a turn, really, really good in this format. That said, I think Arena Athlete is exactly what Josh wants. It gives him something to do with that Coordinated Assault, improves his mana curve, and allows him to be pretty aggressive. He's got a red-green deck, but not really kind of the fatty red-green deck. He's got a pretty aggressive deck.
Yeah, it's pretty weird. It's got a lot of the great 2 and 3 drops that have a lot of double color, and there's no red or green going on in this pack. There's a God's Will and a Cavernland Pad, which are actually the good cards. There's also a Fade into Antiquity, which is a solid sideboard card.
I mean, definitely I'm tempted to just take Thoughtseize here. I can't argue, but Fade into Antiquity, relevant enough. A, it deals with a god. B, he doesn't actually have that much enchantment removal, even though he's in green. So I think you have to take that and ship the Thoughtseize for your constructed deck to another player.
I'm sure he already has as many thought seizes as he needs. So Rage of Perforos. Now, people aren't really high on this as a removal card. I think it's just fine. It deals 4. It's a sorcery, but you kind of have to deal with that in this format, and it scries 1.
Yeah, I think it was a lot worse in triple Theros, where it didn't actually match up well against any of the other 5-drops. But nowadays, the creatures are a little smaller, and the format's a little slower, and there aren't as many creatures that just have enchantments piled onto them. I think it's actually a pretty quality card.
Right, so now we are definitely just kind of cleaning up this pack. We have a Cavalry Pegasus, Messenger Speed is the only red card. We have Mnemonic Wall, you know, the usual suspects in when there's 4 or 5 cards left in the pack.
Yeah, I mean, in the Cavalry Pegasus there, I think he's just like, I'm a red-green deck. Most of my creatures are on the ground. I don't want to randomly lose to all my opponent's creatures getting flying. I mean, we're on the margins right now.
Right, there's a Parametrus Acolyte. I really like this card in some decks, but it doesn't seem like he has the top-end curve to really take advantage of it.
I agree. Doesn't have a lot of monstrosity, doesn't have that many expensive creatures. That said, he still has the Nemesis of Mortals without that many ways of getting creatures into the graveyard. Well, now he's got to commune with the gods to do exactly that. But I like the Acolyte in red-green generally the best. That said, not that awesome in Josh's deck particularly.
Yeah, and I have a feeling he's not going to get any more awesome cards for his deck. So we're just going to, Borderline Centaur, playable. Satyr Rambler if he needs to shore up his curve. And he goes with the Satyr Rambler. That's pretty good. Yeah,
I think the Minotaur, as you said, just a way better card overall, but it looks like he's trying to play very aggressively,
all right,
and that's what the Rambler
Let's give Josh a grade on this draft. What do you say?
I think this is a pretty good base red aggro deck. You've got removal, you've got creatures, you've got a decent curve. Definitely you're more red than green. I think originally I thought he was more green than red. I'd give this kind of a B or a B minus. I'm not terribly excited about it, but I mean, you can win games with this deck. Literally no record except for 0-3 would surprise me right now. I could see 1-2, I could see him 3-0.
All right, well, Rashad Miller, Zach Hill for the Tournament Center.